So hi everyone. Thank you for joining the privacy talk. This time is we are inviting the Mr. Steve from US. So he is a very brilliant researchers the privacy and security space. So Stephen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So first of all, I will share his profile. Stephen is a privacy and security fellow for our streets cybersecurity and emerging threat team. He focuses on the data security, the data privacy, and cybersecurity at federal and state level, emerging cyber and national security threats, and the cybersecurity impacts on the private sectors. Stephen worked for nearly a decade in law enforcement. He had assignments in the patrol division and detective divisions, where he was a senior and lead investigator on homicides and robberies, sexual assaults, white-collar crimes, and child abuse cases. He also was a computer forensic examiner and a member Sacramento Valley High-Tech Crime Task Force and Sacramento Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force. Stephen has a JD from University of California, Hastings College of Law, and graduated cum laude from California State University, Los Angeles, with bachelor's degree in English. During law school, he interned at Federal Trade Commission, working on issues regarding federal and state privacy law, antitrust laws, and consumer-related issues from blockchain technology. Prior to that, Stephen interned at Speed Legal, a Silicon Valley tech startup company utilizing artificial intelligence in the legal space. At Speed Legal, he worked on the privacy-related issues, corporate governance, and contract artificial intelligence quality control. So, Stephen, thank you for joining again.
Absolutely.
And
Here.
yeah, that's awesome. So let's start the first interview agenda. So you had a very great experiences so far in privacy and security space. So could you tell us the why did you start to work in the security and privacy field?
Yeah, I'd say that my initial interest in the privacy and security space started when I was in law enforcement, working on computer forensics cases and seeing law enforcement's access to highly sensitive information, um, from cell phones to computers and all the type of data in between. Um, there were a few cases back in like 2015, 2016, I believe. One was the Riley versus California decision by the Supreme Court um, that basically made a search warrant be required for any cell phone that was recovered incident to arrest. Prior to that case, an officer could make an arrest, locate a cell phone in a suspect's pocket, and search that without a search warrant. So this case basically said, nope, you can't do that anymore. The other case was in reference to the San Bernardino terrorist case, which was an issue with a locked Apple iPhone that the FBI wanted to get access to, but they didn't have it was fully encrypted and they couldn't get access to it. So they were trying to make it where there could be a backdoor, force Apple to create a backdoor to allow law enforcement to search those phones. And Apple fought that tooth and nail, and eventually FBI just dropped the case. They were able to get it through a different means by paying a lot of money to a cybersecurity company. And so these type of things were coming around, and it was just extremely interesting. And I thought it'd be beneficial to go to law school and kind of study this type of these issues. And so here I am today, working in privacy and data security. And it's just also exciting emerging field, even in the legal field. It's just it's all green, and there's a lot of places to explore that haven't been explored yet. So that's another reason why I chose this area to work in.
Yeah, that's amazing. Then brilliant. And you also had some great experiences, such as the computer forensics, as I mentioned on the bio. Then, could you tell us about these experiences as well?
Yeah, before law school, before I was even working in data privacy, I did work in computer forensics investigations. So, I was a part of the Sacramento High Tech Task Force, which is a pretty impressive agency that is combined with federal and local law enforcement to kind of bring experience and expertise to local regions to help smaller departments and larger departments um, investigate digital crimes. That can be, from anything involving child abuse to homicides and things like that. So it was fascinating work. Um, yeah, it was just fascinating work. So
Yeah, that's very important then, like to save the child or any vulnerabilities to use the new technology. I think the forensic is the part of very important elements. And you also are part of very important role at our street right now in the cybersecurity, the emerging threat team. Could you tell us your current role in the work, besides your experiences in federal commission so far?
yeah, so at our street, our street is a think tank that focuses on limited government and free markets. And specifically, I focus on data privacy and security issues at the federal and state levels, and also as it intersects with cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, I focus in that area as well. At the FTC, that was an internship at during law school that I focused on. I got to work at the San Francisco regional office and really got some exposure to some antitrust issues, a lot of data privacy issues, and of course, things that were popping up with um, crypto currencies and technology.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And the like for experience, just right, the blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's also the my interested so far. So yeah, that's very great work. From this part, we would like to start the conversation about the transition of the privacy, the security legislations. You had published a very important article about the kids' data security and privacy, because it's a very important discussion among the lawmakers, especially for CSAM or some kind of the lawmaking processes. So, what has it discussed in US about the kids' data and security and privacy at this moment?
Yeah, recently we've seen a trend at the state and federal level to focus on children's privacy. Um, for example, the Kids Online Safety Act, the Stop CSAM Act, and the Earn It Act. And for good reason too. We should protect children's privacy, and I agree with that 100%. Um, but I also believe it shouldn't be done in a way that decreases data security. Um, and that is something that we definitely have seen in the Stop CSAM Act and the Earn It Act, which those laws undermine end-to-end encryption. And I believe, just from my experience in computer forensics and just seeing how effective it can be, it's vital to protecting sensitive data. So things that we often don't think of is the amount of data that, if we didn't have end-to-end encryption, the amount of data that would be sent without being encrypted. And a lot of these laws are focused on CSAM, which is, just really disgusting and deplorable stuff that is out there, and it should be stopped. And it's definitely needs to be funded, and there needs to be funding into law enforcement agencies that are investigating those crimes. But things that are overlooked is the amount of self-generated CSAM by just kids that are just being kids, taking their own photographs and sending it to someone else that they think is going to respect their privacy, and they don't. They send it to someone else. Um, and a lot of times, they will use applications or software that makes those things encrypted, those sensitive photographs. And so when you take those tools away from not just children, but anyone, you you compromise data security in general. So I think that these type of cases or these type of laws should be looked at, but it shouldn't compromise encryption. And if they do pass these type of laws, they need to really focus on funding organizations that are investigating these crimes, which are incredibly underfunded. Um, so yeah.
Thank you. In addition to the kids privacy law in the US, there is the like COPPA is the kind of the protecting kids privacy. So how do you think about the COPPA? Is the comprehensive? Is the protective for the under the technical innovation this moment?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question again?
Okay. Do you think there is the children privacy regulation in COPPA in the US? Do you think it's been applicable to the new tech, new innovation at this moment?
Well, I think that COPA is, an extremely important law. Um, I think that with a lot of things that there are areas of that law that should be updated. And one of the areas that should be updated is and looked at is the data security requirements in COPA. And that is there was, it just closed, there was a request for a comments on FTC rulemaking around COPPA to update it. And we'll see where that goes. But yeah, in general, it's a very important law that helps protect children. Um, I just feel like perhaps it's been tested by time and it needed a few updates.
Thank you for the yeah, you on your article that you mentioned about the some of the new trend in the kids data privacy and security. That's been very helpful for the viewers to understand it of the current status of the privacy discussion space right now. So let's move to the next questions. It's about the state privacy registration in US. You mentioned on the article there is some of the new trend, such as the forerunning in California or other states is trying to do that, and also the security requirements such as the CIS control some kind of the new action. So could you share about the current US state privacy registration?
Yeah, I think the article you're referring to is when it's about the quest for reasonable security. And a lot of these laws, whether it's federal law like the GLBA or HIPAA, or the state laws in California like the CPRA, as it amended the CPPA, and also the GDPR. They all have this very vague and subjective criteria. It's like organizations must implement reasonable security. And I kind of that article just goes through the challenges to what is actually reasonable. And the article basically kind of comes to a conclusion that we can use California enforcement, we can use state legislation and state enforcement to kind of guide what reasonable security is. And part of that is looking at these enforcement actions that have happened to organizations and learning from their mistakes to kind of understand what is reasonable. And one thing that we know is pretty clear what is reasonable is multi-factor authentication, access controls, and encryption. So state enforcement are saying how important encryption is. That's why it's important that when I reference them back to like the Stop CSAM Act and the Internet Act, is that they're kind of coming after encryption, whereas these state laws and these are saying, hey, encryption is important. So we know that that's kind of a baseline start for what is reasonable security. And then we also see that it is helpful because you want a security law that is adaptable and flexible. And this type of, I'd call it non-prescriptive approach to data security allows organizations to um, come to the table and implement security safeguards that fit their organization's best needs.
Yeah, that's very informative on the article. It's a help in the explain of the current privacy registration in the state level. So do you think any kind of issues to establish the privacy and security registration in the state level, such as the lack of funding, lack of resources, those kind of the more practical things. So do you have anything that we need to discuss about the future state legislation?
Well, I mean, I'll say that this year has had a promising messaging coming from Washington, D.C. There's just been urgent calls for federal privacy law, including support from President Biden in his most recent executive order on data brokers, where he calls out that there is a need for um, a comprehensive federal privacy and security law, which is something that we haven't been able to get done. And so there's optimism that Congress can get to work and pass a law that was similar to the American Data Privacy Protection Act, which during the 118th Congress passed that committee, I think 48-2. So that was a vote. So it was a huge bipartisan approach to a comprehensive privacy law that would have benefited all Americans. And so something like that could be passed in the near future. That's my optimism. But there's also there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Thank you for sharing insights. And the next question about it's a kind of federal privacy law that you speak a bit on the previous questions. On your article, you mentioned about the AI trend, which is the highly impact to the federal privacy law in the future as well. So could you share about your experience, your opinion, ideas? What do you expect the federal privacy law in the future?
I'm trying to get a handle on your question. Are you referring to the article where I say that a comprehensive federal privacy law could be an underlying basis for artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I think that, well, when you look at artificial intelligence, you're talking about massive amount of data. And right now in the United States, there are no federal comprehensive privacy law that is, minimizing the amount of data that's out there. So um, I'm not I'm not going to call it completely the wild, wild west, but there's a lot of states that are unprotected that don't have comprehensive state privacy laws. I think today we're at 15 because Kentucky just passed theirs today. So we're at 15. That means there's a lot of other states that are not protected. So when these LLMs are using a lot of data. Um, when you look at what could be a baseline approach to helping protect sensitive data from artificial intelligence, you got to start talking that a comprehensive privacy level or privacy law on a federal level would protect data in that way. So it's kind of like what should be done today, tomorrow, is passing that law, and that would benefit artificial intelligence.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is everywhere nowadays. The lawmakers is discussing this point. So in last year, Biden administration is made executive orders artificial intelligence. So do you think this is bring this some impact to the lawmaking processes, especially for federal privacy law?
Um, was that the or we talking about the executive order that was in October, released in October
Yeah.
by Biden on artificial intelligence?
Yes.
I think it brings the need. It screams that we need a comprehensive federal privacy and security law, and that should be the first start. So, like that messaging is helpful, but how that approach is obtained has to be a very nuanced approach because um, a lot of the narrative around artificial intelligence is how dangerous it is, you know, and I'm not trying to minimize any threats that are out there, but lost in the noise is the amount of the benefit that AI will bring to not just the United States, but globally, um, and how AI will be used in cybersecurity and allow smaller organizations to fight cyber threats that they normally wouldn't have been able to do without, at least on a human level, that AI can do at a more reasonable and efficient cost. So I think that's when I hear, politicians not downplaying, but uh, scream about the dangers of AI, they need to also be balancing that with how beneficial AI will be to uh, individuals and organizations.
Thank you. Yeah, we should have the more discussion about the AI and privacy space at this moment in our countries as well. So until now, it's very great to share your own experiences. So finally, I'd like to ask for the Stephen to share about your message. And you had written the very great article so far, and you had a very great experiences in this space. So could you share about your message for listeners, something that you want to deliver from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think that at least listeners in the United States, I think it's important to be proactive in contacting your elected representatives and letting them know your concerns about data privacy and security and the need for a federal law. Push the message to that the U.S. needs an effective privacy law, especially at the federal level. And I think that's an important message for individuals to make to the representatives, but also to be um, proactive in their own data security, doing what they need to do to minimize their data footprint. I think that's very important.
Thank you for sharing the very important insight. So again, then Stephen, thank you for joining, and that's very honored to have a great conversation with your insights. So thank you for having today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.